Hey everybody! Please pay no attention to my sideways bun. It's been one of them days. I hope y'all having a good week. So I'm back for another review of Love During Lockup, $1 Million Fantasy. Season 4, episode 43. I hate the way they do these seasons, okay? We've been watching this for like 2 years. Anyway, so I'm just going to go in order. So we're going to start with Letitia and Keith. Okay. So Letitia, we pick up back where we left off with the bar and stuff. So Letitia asked her employee about screwing around with her husband, basically. Okay, at the bar. All right. So apparently, I think the girl's name is Dion, Dee, something like that. Whatever. They went together in high school, but she was like they didn't have sex. Whatever. Letitia then proceeds at the bar. Okay, and we know this is on camera, but still, to call his aunt Marcia on her cell phone on speaker, okay, to confirm this information, okay, that none of us needed to know, okay, who apparently likes Letitia and is very happy that they're married despite the fact that her nephew is in prison. And so she asked her about this relationship with the Dee or whatever, and that's what I'm just gonna call it. And she was like, no, they were never boyfriend and girlfriend. And Dee like, no, I told you that. She was like, well, did they, basically have sex? And she was like, well, I would assume so. And she was like, why would you assume that? Like, the other girl kind of got mad. And she was like, because I know my nephews. Girl, okay. Okay. Aunt Marcia, just hang up the phone. Okay? You don't need to know that much about your nephews. And you damn sure don't need to be sharing it from when they were teenagers. Anyway, so why was the chick in the all black who started just smiling? I don't know why that kind of tickled me. I'm not gonna lie. She reminds me, those two girls that were laughing about it outside remind me. Remember when they had the show Selling Tampa? I'm sorry they cut that off because that was enjoyable for all the wrong reasons. But remember those two girls that were really good friends? They remind me of them. And the way she was like smiling and laughing when she found out, I just felt that was so messed up. But it was funny, but because Letitia is stupid. Anyway, so apparently Keith was some popular dude in high school. Who cares? Okay. And she was like, and I was popular. Dee was like, and I was popular too. It was just one of those things. Then she proceeds to message her husband about this bullshit. She goes to another part of the restaurant to do it. Letitia, why are you saying that this information caught you off guard? Now, maybe the delivery did. But when you said that Keith told you that they had dated, but I thought he was joking. Okay, girl, then that's your fault. Okay, why are you tripping about something that don't even matter? High school does not matter. Cut it out. Like, cut it out. Your employees are laughing outside about you. None of this is a good look on TV or anywhere else. Y'all could never do my taxes. Moving on. So then Letitia's at home with her daughter when we get her later in the episode, right? And her daughter looks about 6. She asked to do something. I miss what she asked to do, but she's a little girl. She couldn't be any more than 6. She may be younger. And so she tells her daughter, well, look, I'm waiting for a call from your bonus dad. Okay, the reason why I bring up how this little girl looked in terms of age, and I said approximately 6 or less, how in the fuck do you explain a bonus/step parent to a kid that has not and cannot see this man in person? Like, how do you even, like, y'all are gonna fuck these kids up. I hate to say it like that, but that is just not good. So she claimed, so Letitia's going through her phone looking for all the other prison wives to see if they're locked down because he's not answering her call. And I'm just like, girl, this is all over that foolishness. Anyway, the girl's name is Deanna. I got it right here. Deanna, but I'm just going to call her Dee because that's what I'm going to call her. So she said, well, I want to call and talk about the Deanna situation. She was like, did you sleep with her? I'm like, girl, you didn't have time to do whatever your daughter asked you to do to ask him this. Okay. And he was like, why would you ask me something like that? He was like, I was 18 or something. Pause. Typically, I would say when a man responds like that, yeah, he lying, this, that, and the other. But this is one of those times where you are leaving me with no choice. Okay? I see his point. Why would you ask me that? That was so long ago. I'm 35 years old. I cannot remember stuff from high school or interactions, hardly people's names, because honestly, that's not a part of my life I was ever caught up in. It just doesn't count for me. It just doesn't count. Okay? Um, but girl, this shit is stupid. You calling him about this bullshit, and he in prison. Like, I mean, like his major issue is that he's in prison. Okay? And she still gives me stripper vibes. Don't act like strippers don't have husbands and boyfriends in prison, but okay. Am I the only one that gets that from her? If I am, or if I'm not, just put that down in the comments. Okay? Anyway, but he hung up on her ass, and that shit was funny. So that's all we get of them. Then we get Andy and Brittany. Now, this actually turned out to be a little bit better than I thought. So Andy goes to talk to his daughters, who are, I mean, technically grown, but as far as I'm concerned, young adults, okay? And he's telling them a little bit more about Brittany, who's in prison. They asked him, like, you know, is she marriage worthy? And he was like, yeah, I'd say so. Okay. Anyway, so he decides he's moving from Tiffany to Rome, Georgia. Now, look, I know where Rome is. I ain't never heard of Tiffany, Georgia, and I'm from Georgia. Anyway, now he's going to move for about 4 hours away from his kids and his family, which we can say is not a long drive for a visit. But I think a parent moving 4 hours away for an inmate makes about as much sense as Renika, but we'll get to her in a second. Anyway, and I guess they are grown, but they're still young adults. And as we watch this show, we can tell they still have a lot of trauma. And quite frankly, Andy, you're their father and you are responsible. And you need to be, I mean, you're responsible for the trauma. So you are responsible for fixing it. So the girls were like, are you sure she is the only person, I mean, are you sure you're the only person she's talking to? And they were like, because we feel like you are being taken advantage of a little bit. And one of them were like, you know, like little confessionals when they take them outside or whatever. She was like, my dad used to be a cop and now he's dating an inmate. And that doesn't make any sense. And I was like, yeah, girl, it don't. It don't. Y'all trying to keep him on a straight and narrow, and that's a shame because he didn't teach y'all how to do it. But anyway, so the daughter Destiny, that's the young one. She's about 19. The other girls are like 25 or whatever. So she talks about, he gets Brittany on the phone and says, well, look, you can ask her all these questions because I didn't know I was going to be interrogated. Boo. They're your daughters. They have the right to ask these questions. Okay? And she's in prison. Okay? Let's not forget that that's the big issue here. Okay? This is how you are presenting them, presenting her to them. So the daughter Destiny, who says she didn't really feel like speaking or whatever, I mean, she spoke briefly. The other one was much nicer kind of in the way she dealt with it. You could tell she's the oldest because the oldest kind of learns to be, I don't know, the one who cares for the emotions of everybody else. So they tend to be the more reasonable one. That's been my experience with my sister being the older one. Anyway, so Destiny just ain't having it. She the younger one, and she's like, fuck it. So she was talking about how drug addiction had essentially broke their family up. So the fact that she's in jail for drugs, you know, basically doesn't sit well with her. And the fact that she's in jail for drugs and she doesn't want anybody doing this to them again. Okay? Now, the older daughter was much nicer. But I'm glad the younger one was pissed off and was asking these direct questions because they needed to be asked. And Andy, you falling short and you were really getting exposed tonight. So the older, so Brittany apparently, they asked her, does she have kids? Brittany apparently has like 4 kids, like an 18-year-old, 15-year-old, a 10-year-old. And then the oldest daughter is kind of the one taking care of them. And I'm like, I don't think y'all need to be blended families at all. Because neither one of y'all are whole. Clearly, if you think your children don't have any resentment for you, Brittany, and I don't know whether you do think that or not, but I can tell you right now they do. Because their mother is in prison and 18 is barely grown, okay? Like, when I said young adults, I wasn't saying to put them down. I'm just making a point. Okay, you are technically grown, but you're not grown, okay? Anyway. So, then the girls start going off on him. And they were like, how are you going to go and be a parent to her kids and you weren't even a parent to us? I said, oops. Andy, that you didn't tell us this. You did not tell us this. So he was like, that's BS. I was a father to you all. And you all are grown. One of the daughters was like, well, her kids are grown. I was like, no, 18, 15, 10. That's not grown. But okay. And the other daughter was like, what? How long did we stay at Granny's? Because you weren't, I was like, ooh, this is getting real. So I think there may be truth sometimes to both sides in these cases. Because I think whenever there's issues of custody and drug abuse and the children are just getting dragged through it and the family splits up, I think it's hard for kids to feel like, not to simply just feel like, but many of them don't get the kind of attention and affection that they need from both parents. A divorce in and of itself is hard for kids, but certainly when it's like this, you know what I mean? Anyway, so, but they were right. Period. Hard stop. Okay? They were right. And when they said you are going back into the very thing we just worked our way out of, I was like, facts. They are holding him accountable, and they were effective. We had some effective family members tonight, I have to say. So then the girls decided to actually talk to Brittany later in the episode, and Destiny, the younger one, Destiny is making her mark, and she's a pretty girl too. Destiny got on the phone and said, our father left us when we were kids. Like, basically, did you know that? And he was inconsistent in our lives. And Brittany, the inmate, is pissed off. She was like, I never knew that. He was like, I told you all this. She was like, everything we have is based on word. I have never heard about this or you leaving your kids. And basically, as far as she's concerned, she don't want to bring on no deadbeat when she's already been in trouble and hasn't been there for her kids. And those girls have every reason to be mad. I don't care if they're grown. If you did shit to your kids or failed them growing up, yes, as they get older, they are the ones responsible for their trauma. And not responsible for it, but in terms of working to heal it. But they have every right to feel that way. They do. And honestly, they're doing pretty good considering the circumstances. At least it looks that way to me. All right? So then we have Jade and Chris. Jade, I have words for you. I really do. And I hope, even though they're about to be negative, I hope they will encourage you to make better decisions. So Jade and Jessica are going out to talk. Jessica, her sister or whatever. So Jade asked her father, well, what should I do about her behavior at the birthday party, her throwing anything in the pool, whatever. And he said, look, if she has a problem with Chris, tell her to talk to Chris. Jade and her father honestly had a completely different read of the situation than I did. As far as I was concerned, Jessica was not wrong for being pissed. It was her birthday. Jade, you threw her a party at your house. He ruined it. He ruined it by calling and talking down to you, Jade, at her party on speakerphone. The whole party was disrupted because of this bullshit. So don't act like your sister is crazy. Don't do that. Don't do that. All right. So anyway, so during the conversation where Jade and Jessica go off, she asked her, she was like, look, I know you have a problem with Chris, but I think you should come to a prison visit so you can have a sit down with Chris and get your feelings out. Jade, honey, that is not the solution. First of all, I can already tell you the guard is going to come in early and remove your sister, because she gonna have words and she is gonna be absolutely right. I don't know what has your brain so tied up that you are making these bad decisions, but baby, cut it out. Just cut it the entire fuck out, okay? So, apparently Chris has spent over $1 million because Jessica was like, I want to add this stuff up. And his sister was like, well, he buys her stuff all the time after a fight, and like I said, he gives me abusive tease. Like I said last week, I don't have any proof of it, but if we start checking our boxes on red flags for potentially controlling and abusive relationships, this is being teed up pretty well for that kind of behavior. Just saying. And she was like, my sister's not materialistic, but that's what, he does. And she was like, the money honestly helps in this situation. She was basically saying, though, that even though my sister's not materialistic, I don't think if he couldn't afford to, buy her these I'm sorry gifts, she would still be entertaining it. Like, okay. And basically, if he couldn't do that, she would have probably left and they wouldn't even have this motherfucker in their life anymore. So, why did Okay, so Jade goes on that. It's not a dirt bike, go kart, whatever thing it was. And it wasn't until after she got out that little go kart that I realized Jade had on a jumpsuit with Chris's pictures of Chris's face all over it. First of all, how much did that cost you? Why do you have that? And why the hell is he so controlling that you would even think that was a good fucking idea? If somebody had my face, my boyfriend had my face on his shirt, I would think that shit was weird. I'm not gonna lie. Even though I love Beyonce, I thought it was weird that Jay-Z wore a shirt with her face on it. I get it, he's trying to support her and everything. I'm just saying, just something about it, I don't like that kind of attention. But a narcissist does, and that's what it looks like you're dealing with, okay? Once again, just an armchair psychologist, I'm just saying. Anyway, so once I got over this jumpsuit, while they're having their little timeout, Jessica goes, how many times did Chris call you? She took her phone and she was like, he's called you 18 times. I know that go-kart time could not have been more than an hour. Calling somebody 18 times, he is weird, he is controlling, he is deeply insecure, and Jade, there is nothing you can say, do, screw to get that out of his head. Those are issues he had with his mother, and she's going to have to help him resolve them. Sorry, go to therapy. Girl, and run while you can. Okay. So Jade is explaining to him why she didn't pick up the phone. Jessica basically takes the phone and was like, I need to talk to him. And he was like, well, I shouldn't be left out all the time. And Jessica's like, you're in prison. Why would you expect to be here? I was like, yes, Jessica. Yes, okay. He was on some fuck shit. Like when he said, back to Jade, well, Jessica should be encouraging you to call me since she is reaping the benefits of what I provide. For me, that was it. That was it. I said he is controlling right now, and I just see this escalating into a level of abuse. I do. The fact that he thinks this relationship is quid pro quo anyway already lets me know that he has objectified Jade and he objectifies women. Okay? If you give me a gift, you give me a gift. That's why it's called a gift. You don't get to control me because you chose to give me a gift. Okay? Then he did that gaslighting shit and said, I don't expect you to pick up the phone all the time, but I do so much for you, I expect a courtesy call. No, that's exactly what you expect. That's why you call 18 times. A courtesy call is, oh, thank you for booking my flight. I know I got real busy today and I appreciate you helping me click. What the fuck? He don't even know what that is. He needs to look that up while he in jail so he can use his time wisely. Jay, get out of this relationship, please. Please, please, because I'm scared for you. And so is Jessica. And your father should be more scared for you instead of making Jessica the scapegoat. I hope she ain't the scapegoat in the family, but it's looking like that. Jay, get out of this relationship. This is no good. And I'm going to tell you right now, baby, it will only get worse. It will only get worse. Then we get in the shortened clip, okay? And Jade goes live, and Jade, this is when I knew you were stupid and not so bright, okay? Jade goes live, you know, we get those little snippets to show her husband's mail, to tell everybody how she gets up at noon. She said that half of her followers send her basically, you know, eggplant pics, okay, and the other half hate her. And she has like 264,000 followers. She was like, but don't tell my husband about it because he'll get jealous. Jade, I don't like to call people stupid and actually mean it when I say you're stupid, but you're looking really fucking stupid. Okay, and get into another stupid one. Renika and Asante. Renika, I don't dislike you. I really don't. I really want there to be something redeeming about your whole situation, but you're not giving me much to work with because you clearly have a good family who comes with, you know, problems like all of our families, But you have good people in your corner giving you solid and consistent advice, and you're refusing to take it. Okay, and that's my problem with you. So they're having a going away party for Renika. The sister can't even get his name right. So that already tells me you haven't been telling your family a whole lot about him. And I think it's because you knew that this shit would end up the way it is. Them going, The sister couldn't even get his name right. And that was red flag number one. So Renika's talking about how she wants to get it in with her man as soon as she gets there. Maybe I'm old school. You can call me a prude. But I don't think you should be talking about that in front of your teenage daughters. I don't. And you're not married. This isn't their father. Even parents can kind of joke like that sometimes, but rarely. Like, you know what I mean? I just think being a little too open about that at that age when they need to learn and they're experiencing hormones and things like that, knowing what's appropriate, an appropriate response to sex and the temptation of it. It's like Nikki Giovanni said in that conversation when she sat down with James Baldwin, at some point, in order for our communities to get better, somebody has to fake it. Somebody has to fake it. The rent will get paid, the bills will get paid, all this cursing each other out, or black men taking out on black women. Somebody's got to fake it so kids can have a healthy idea of what relationships look like. And even if that is what you plan to do, I don't think it's appropriate in front of your teenage daughters. Just my opinion. The sister was straight up though. She was like, I do not approve. She did not mince words. And I'm going to tell you why I fuck with the sister, okay? Because the sister was like, she was explaining exactly why she did not approve. She was very clear about the things that they may be missing out on, and she was asking the right questions. The sister was like, is he talking to other women? Having a bunch of conversations is not love. Her sister, like I said, made good points. She was like, if you leave, we can't have sister nights like we do, like when we're spending the night with each other. I can't see my nieces on a regular basis. I can't hang out with them regularly. And it is important to have those familial relationships because that's what makes kids feel safe and secure, particularly during teenage years. Being a teenager is hard. You go through a lot. You need your family, and particularly aunties sometimes when you feel like you can't talk to your mother. And the fact that Renika, you even living at home with your mother tells me that she has provided a level of stability for you. I just think you are giving up something very special to still have your family so tight-knit, and even your father, even after being in prison, so on and so forth. The fact that he's come out and he's trying to fix it, I really think you are really blowing what could really be a good, healthy reconciliation. I really do. And anyway, the sister goes on and she was like, I don't want it to be a cycle when they interview her of moving away from family, getting caught up with a jailbird, and then my nieces are picking up on the same habits, right? Like, okay, I have a dream. Okay, I'm in love with this guy. And then I get caught up with a jailbird and maybe I'll commit a crime. Maybe I'll end up in those bad situations. And the bottom line is, those patterns happen. I have seen that even with working with kids and seeing the parents, seeing, breakdowns in relationships with the grandmother, the mother, all of that. I've seen it. Not because I want to see it, not because I'm judging it, but I am evaluating it to a point where I want to be able to be a mentor to those kids when I have to be, so that this shit does not get repeated, because that's what community does, and you are really fucking it up for some jailbird, okay? And see, her sister wasn't talking at the side of her neck. Her sister was like giving hard facts, and that's why I liked it. So she called her out when she was like, well, what do you love about him? And she was like, well, he's been there for me all the time. He was there for me when grandma died. And her sister was like, the whole time he was there for you, the whole time grandma died, right? Because the point is that he's in prison. And she was like, yeah, like mentally he was there for me the whole time, calling me like 8 times a day to make sure I was okay. The sister was just not having it, the way the father wasn't having it, the way the woman who owned the hair salon last week was not having it. Renika, Nika, girl, you got people really trying to warn you, and you insist on going in the worst possible direction, and I just don't get it. All right, so anyway, then his sister asked, well, what's going to happen if you find out he has a whole lot of chicks and then you move to Atlanta? And she was like, so it won't matter. He ain't going to get rid of me that easy. I said, okay. First of all, you already got that bird side chick logic. Now he don't have to respect you. Even if he see this now, he knows now he does not have to respect you at all. Okay? I was done though, because she said that shit in front of her daughters. And I was like, wow, way to set an example. That is definitely what they should learn to put up with as they mature and go into relationships. Yeah, it doesn't matter. He ain't gonna get rid of me that easy. Fuck him if he does that. He's disrespecting you. And then y'all wonder why these kids are so messed up now. Oh my gosh. So then we get her dumb ass dressing up for a video call with Asante, and she could have. I know that being on FaceTime with a boo, you try to, but Renika, I need you to go back to the drawing board and never do that again. All right, so he can apparently call and video her anytime he wants. And I'm going to tell you already what kind of chick Renika is. When she was like, I don't know how he got that iPhone. I don't want to know this, that, and the other. Whenever you start saying, I don't know, I don't want to know, in a relationship, trouble is on the horizon. Because your intuition is telling you no. And you not listening to it. Girl, we all been there, but you're a little bit too old to not know better at this point. And seeing that you've had multiple children, I think you know what it is to get into a relationship and get out of one with a man and the reasons for it. Okay. So she was like, I get scared every time I'm on FaceTime. And I was like, okay, yeah, people get nervous when they talk. She was like, because I'm afraid the guard's going to catch him and put him into a hole and then put him into the hole and he's going to get extra jail time. And I was just like, this is so ghetto. This is so ghetto. So she's telling him about the going away party. Was it just me though? But as he was on the iPhone and doing the video call, he looked like he was playing a video game in jail. I was like, what is he watching? What is he doing? Because he's like paying attention to her, but not really. Everything is like a long pause. And I just, this shit is a mess. I don't know how this is going to go. So she tells him about the going away party, and she was like, a lot of people in my family, a lot of my friends don't support our relationship, and she has friends and family that thinks he's using her and that she is going to be taking care of him. And I was like, girl, you already admitted to us you're going to take care of him. When you said you've been spending and sending $2,000 to $2,500 a month, and you have kids and you live with your mama. Girl, that is rent. That is rent somewhere. Do you know what you could do with that? With a 529, putting away money for your kids to go to college or trade school, whatever they decide to do. Like, what the fuck? Like, anyway. So he was like, let them think what they think. She asked him if he was seeing other women, and he had like this pregnant pause. But then again, he looked like he was playing the Xbox. And he paused and then said no. And I was like, she was like, she loves him, but she doesn't trust him. And I was just like, girl, you are stupid. You and Jay are neck and neck at this point. Then we get Brittany and Keurig. Okay. This is another toxic one. Brittany is young. Okay? She made a bad choice. And I think Brittany talks a lot, like we saw last week. And maybe she'll talk enough to where she's talking to more people at hair school. And maybe they'll be able to talk her out of this shit, because this is bad. So Kerrick's best friend, okay, and I'm not sure if the best friend identifies as a he or she, so I'll just say they for now. Not to be disrespectful, but I didn't catch it, the name or anything. So Kerrick's best friend is hanging out with Brittany or whatever. And anyway, they go to a restaurant and she has a picture of him at the table. And I was just like, Brittany, like, what is wrong with these chicks? I just can't understand why they insist on looking so stupid on TV. Like, we all have done dumb shit. Not like that dumb, but I'm just saying. But, like, with cameras, this shit is sad. All right. So Keurig best friend is basically talking to Keurig at this restaurant on the phone, on speaker, again, in this episode, like we saw the t-shirt earlier, and was like, you know, what's going to happen when you come out? And the best friend, Brittany's best friend, says she's worried about Keurig getting out, letting distractions get to him, or Brittany getting, or worse, Brittany getting caught up in it and then going back to prison. She was like, that's my best friend. I never want to see that happen to her again. So Keurig's best friend was like, are you ready for stuff to get really, really bad? Like when y'all had bad arguments. And honestly, the Keurig's best friend seemed really negative. Even for me, like, I'm going in on these people, but I'm like, why are you going so hard on this girl about this? Like, why do you care? Were y'all fucking at some point? Like, is this really the best friend? Like, what's going on? So anyway, Keurig apparently cheated on Brittany in prison. When they were separated in prison, because sometimes that happens, you get moved to somewhere else. And because Brittany had heard these rumors, because I guess Keurig is insisting it's a rumor, Keurig cheated, but okay. Because she heard a rumor that he was sleeping with somebody. Because she was out, she went to a party, she slept with somebody else to get him back. Whatever. That's what young people do. That's what people do. But young people especially, they like she's like in her early 20s. She got plenty of life left to live. They're too young. But we've seen this show and these situations before. It never goes well. So anyway, she tells us how she's a waitress, you know, while she's going through hair school. And so she gets paid in cash. And she says she puts $125 on his books every week. Because apparently he invests in businesses, so on and so forth. That's why when we get to the end of the episode and he's talking about how he likes to be a provider and he wants to be the one, I'm like, Negro, if you want to be a provider, she shouldn't be putting anything on your books. So that already tells me you full of shit and this is your smoke screen so you can be controlling. Gosh, these people kill me trying to be controlling from prison. So, she puts $125 on his books every week, and apparently he invests in businesses. He was like, when I get home, I'm going to teach you the electric slide, you know, for the wedding. She was like, I already know the electric slide. She was like, we do the cha-cha slide, this, that, and the other. And then we found out she's Hispanic. I thought maybe she was like half black and half white, but whatever. So she said she has a visit with him set up at 8. So as soon as she gets out the car or whatever, from work, apparently she visits and lives with Keurig's family instead of her own. She said she came from a strict Catholic family. She said she lives with his family, basically his brothers, because she feels like his family is more accepting, or they would be more accepting. And I was just like, I want to know more about this. Is this just because that's what you're afraid of how your parents will react, especially seeing that they provided for you when you were in prison and made a bad decision? Is it just that when you're gay, everything goes out the window? Which, trust me, I know with Catholics and strict religious people, that can happen. But I wonder how much of this is her fear of it and how much of this is actually true. Because parents who were straight up supporting you and had you prison rich seem like the kind of parents who would have your back. But that's just me. So Keurig asks, basically, when she gets up to get something to eat, Keurig asks his brothers, do y'all like Brittany? And they say overall, yeah. But they said they noticed that Brittany comes home late. Apparently the restaurant closes at 12 and she comes in around 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. So when Brittany comes back, she basically tells his brothers this is her time to talk to Keurig or whatever. He starts to ask her why is she coming home late and he doesn't like her coming in late. First of all, sir, you're in fucking prison. You don't get to pull no strings like that. Cut it out. Okay? And she was like, I'm not surprised if he has everybody spying on me, but I can do the same thing. I don't care if you can do the same thing, Brittany. This is not healthy behavior. And he is several years older than you. And I know it probably doesn't seem like much, but like what, she's like 21, 20, he's like 25, 26. I'm sorry, in those early 20s, those are kind of like dog years. Okay? Okay. All right? And he was talking to her like a parent. He was like, well, I like to be the provider. Sir, she's putting $125 on your books. She was like, well, I still like to be independent. He was like, well, if your grades start slipping in school, that's it. I'm like, that's some shit your parents would say when they, paying tuition and shit. And it seems like they are paying tuition and shit. You know what I mean? Like, what the hell? So, how are you a provider and your dumbass has been in prison for years? He's controlling. And I don't like the way he acts. And he's controlling. I'm telling you, people like that, particularly people, when you can see it in their family. I remember having a psychology professor who said, if you ever want to learn about somebody, don't you ever, ever, ever get married to them without meeting their family. And when you meet their family, just like somebody tells you, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them, they're like their family. Don't go, oh, he's different. No, he ain't. He's just like them. And the fact that his brothers think it's appropriate to monitor women's behavior says a lot about the way they grew up. It doesn't mean that's why Kiera is trans. That's not where I'm going with this. But they clearly grew up in a home where women were controlled, and that's why they think it's appropriate to tell on her and to be spying and watching, and nobody thinks this behavior is strange because that's part of their upbringing. Okay? And I didn't like that. And I think this is a perfect example, though, as soon as we learn more. I do think this is probably one of those examples of what happens when kids, but specifically girls, don't feel like they can go back home to a comfortable space and be accepted by their family, particularly around their sexuality. And they end up in these abusive, controlling situations just because they're looking for an escape and something that seems safe at first, but now is no longer safe. That's just my 2 cents on Love During Lockup. I'll talk to y'all soon. I'm going to see Beyonce on Sunday. I want to tell y'all about it. Hopefully, I won't faint at the concert. I told my homegirl, if I faint, don't call 911 until after the concert is over, because I don't want to miss anything. All right. Be sure to let me know what y'all think in the comments, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.